Good evening. My name is Aaron Hirsch. Since I've been making myself aware of operations of the Township Committee and other boards here in Lakewood, I've come to realize that usually what happens is that business is not always done as required. It's not always done with proper due diligence. What I can't figure out is if this is because of lack of experience, lack of proper guidance, or purposeful neglect. Since the master plan seems to be the hot topic in town, I've started to get myself acquainted with the whole process. I've taken my time to look into actual NJ state guidelines for master plan submissions. The very first thing that I observed, the very master plan committee was not formed correctly. Therefore, everything they have accomplished until now, in my opinion, is probably null and void. Let me explain. The state requires that there be a lot of general public input into the plan. So there are requirements for who is allowed to sit on this very important committee. That is to be a liaison committee between the public and the local government and the state. The first thing that strikes me, that there is a state law requiring that at least one member of the planning board needs to sit on this committee. Currently, that position is held by a very decent person, and this situation is no reflection on him as an individual. The chairman, Mr. Flankbaum. But the state planning board member requirement also has to be a class 4 member of the planning board, which means an ordinary citizen. Mr. Flankbaum works for the Municipal Utility Authority, and therefore he is considered a class 2 and cannot be the planning board representative on this committee. State law requires that the committee must avoid any appearance of impropriety. Therefore, the members of this committee cannot be part of any organizations that receives any property, funding, or benefits that would be a clear appearance of impropriety and could be seen as what is referred to today as pay for play. I have a printout of the appointment detail report from the township. According to the township's own paperwork, it shows the appointments were made on April 7, 2016, but on the final agenda of April 7, 2016, there was no mention of a resolution forming this master plan committee as required by state law. And proof of this resolution must be submitted to the state as part of submission process. It further mentions that appointments are for 1 year on your paperwork. And as we are now in May, and they were appointed in April of last year, I'm not really sure how that plays out. The master plan, according to the state requirements, is supposed to be what the people of the township want, not what special interests want. There are multiple conflicts of interest going on this committee, with few voices of actual regular citizens of Lakewood being heard. And even if they are trying to be heard, they are being drowned out by the current administration. The current administration submitted to the Master Plan Committee multiple individual requests for new zoning in private, and any consideration needs to be presented at a public hearing. There needs to be complete transparency in the process. Without having taken apart each individual who currently is on the committee, I believe there are few people on the committee that actually fit the state requirement. The majority do not. Being that this committee is formed improperly and against state regulations, I believe it is to be disbanded and reformed with a non-conflict of interest members and actual public input to increase the chances of citizens of Lakewood planning our next 10 years. I like the quote from the state guidelines. Nothing is more critical than the coordination, public support, understanding involving the public in the plan endorsement process is essential to its success. I'd like to remind you all that there are laws in place for a reason, to keep a democratic and free society. Let's keep it that way. And I have one question, and I don't expect you to have the answer for me tonight. But with this new revelation, does that mean that we are ineligible to state funding that comes with the state endorsement, or do we have to just start all over? And if anyone would like any of the laws that I quoted, I'd be more than happy to provide them. I have printouts of them. Absolutely.